What's going on?
Man, not a whole daggum lot. How you doing, man?
Man, pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, man. I think everything's going good.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I can
I
tell.
think good. I apologize for disappearing last week for an hour and a half. But I think we're good this week.
Oh, man, that's all good. Man, I was, uh, I don't know what's going on in the world, but I wasn't going to duck everybody and be like, well, after the results of the Georgia game, I was just like, well, that didn't go so well.
You'll beat him in the title game, man.
That's, man, that's just kind of going in. And I think we even talked about it. It's like, man, just feels like some fixes in kind of horse shit.
They started with Arkansas. They showed it with Auburn. And I didn't watch the Georgia game. I don't know if the officiating played a role or not. But as far as I was talking to some people at work about that, where it's all like talking the day of, it's like, oh man, you follow college football? And I'm like, yeah, which is a lie because I don't. But anyway, it's all like, oh man, Georgia's got it right. Georgia's gonna knock them out. And I'm like, Alabama's winning this game. But
Mhm.
the real show, we talked about it on the show last week, man. Yes, I think Georgia's the better team, front to back and top to bottom. But you and I've talked about it, man. People that bet according to Las Vegas, don't do that.
Yeah.
If you can get inside the head of television executives, that's how you bet. And that's exactly what we said last week. Yeah, Georgia's better, but Alabama's going to win the SEC championship, and then they'll play again in the playoff. And I would be very surprised if Georgia does not win. And the reason I say that is surely to God, ESPN knows they cannot play the Nick Saban card every single year from now until forever. I mean, you just can't, dude. You can't.
Yeah.
Surely to God, they know that, but we'll see. We'll find out. But I think I think Alabama winning the game in Atlanta was foregone because, like we said, man, I mean, they could still, shoehorn them in there, but it's easier to justify if they win the SEC. It's easier to justify putting Georgia in there in a lower seed than it is a two-loss Alabama who didn't win the conference. So, I mean, they would have done it anyway. Damn justification, I don't care. It's St. Nick,
Yeah,
but
well.
for real, man. But now it's all gravy. But I think y'all will get them in the final.
Man, that's one of the to me the way it worked out. What an interesting set of bowl games that'll be going on. Uh, as for starters, with the playoff, you got Michigan and Georgia playing in the Orange Bowl, Alabama and Cincinnati playing in the Cotton Bowl. It doesn't interest me, but uh, just something about playing Michigan. I'm just like, oh crap, that'd be awesome.
The mission, that's just cool. I'm with you. That's just a
Yeah.
team. And the Orange, you know how I personally feel about the Orange Bowl.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, just Jim Harbaugh's a big deal. Michigan's a big deal. I mean, that's cool. That's real cool. And I the Big Ten championship hurt me a little bit. I do
Mhm.
think that Michigan's the better team, so it's not that. I really like Iowa, man. So I was kind of, I don't know if Iowa had won. I'm not sure who then your fourth playoff team is because I don't necessarily think that your Big Ten champ doesn't go because they're Big Ten champs. So I mean, I think
Mhm.
they should, but that's me. I mean, you know me. I'm an 8-team guy, and you need conference champions, but
Yep.
we're not doing that. And since we're not doing that, I'm not sure if they would have got it or not. But Michigan totally earned their spot. And it's like that's cool, man. That's
Yeah,
cool.
man. For
But
some reason, the Big Ten was one of those conferences that I forgot that they had an official title game.
yeah,
I,
man. When
mhm. For some reason, I thought, well, that's not a given because they don't have one, but then apparently they do. So
Yeah,
I
man. When
got
they
that
they
one
started
backwards.
adding all kinds of teams, they added Maryland and then Rutgers and then oh shoot, I think Nebraska was after that. But yeah, man. Once they got to like enough teams to do divisions, and it took them a minute to get the divisions right. But eventually, they just split them East and West, and it's cool, man. That Western division, especially, man. That crap is fun to follow every year, man. Because I can't believe Nebraska is so routinely bringing up the rear in that division. That's surprising and sad. Pardon me, but Wisconsin is awesome. Minnesota's had a real good season, had a couple of good seasons, and they hate each other, so that's fun. Iowa and both those schools hate each other, so It's awesome. That's a fun division, dude. I love it. That's probably my favorite division in college football. I just pay more attention to them. Yeah, because I like the Pac-12, but the Big Ten's the one I watch the most, and especially if it's those teams out west, because that's just cool. On the subject, man, the rumor going around, excuse me, that Michigan State was going to offer. This is weeks ago now. I'm very late in talking about this. That there was a big report that Michigan State was very, very happy with their coach, and they were going to offer that guy like 10 years and like 93 million or something like that. And then they played the Ohio State game. And I'll tell you what, Michigan State went out. I believe it was the next day. It might have been the Monday after. But whenever they made him his extension offer, they still offered him every year and every cent of that deal. And I think that is awesome because, hey, Ohio State, as far as the Big Ten is concerned, Ohio State is the mountaintop. Them skinning you is going to happen. But I just like the fact that Michigan State made this guy a very serious offer. He went out and got killed by the best team in the conference. They're like, offer wasn't contingent on you beating these guys because eventually you're gonna. And I love that. I thought that was so cool, man.
Yeah, man.
So that was
Cool.
exciting news.
Speaking of Michigan State, it's Michigan State and Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl.
That's fantastic.
That's going to be good.
I totally agree. The Peach Bowl always gets such good like pickings, but I'm with you. That is going to be awesome. It's Pittsburgh, man. I'm telling you. I know it's because they're close. They're in our division, not just conference. But man, you talk about some runaway games. They beat the snot out of us and pretty much everybody else they played. So that's going to be cool. I agree. That's nice.
You got Notre Dame and Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State and Utah in the Rose Bowl, and Baylor and Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl.
Ohio State, Utah, that's going to be a banger. That is going to be a banger. I was on the subject of Utah. I am, like most people, I like Oregon. They got the cool uniforms. They run that cool offense. Their stadium is awesome. Their crowds are awesome. Oregon's cool. But Utah beat the brakes off of them about 3 weeks ago. They went out and did it again, man. Utah is a fun team. My brother is a huge Utah Utes fan. And when they joined the Pac-12, both of us got real excited because it's like, sometimes people join the bigger conference and it's like, I don't know about that, brother. But with Utah joining the Pac-12, it's like, these cats can play. I know people didn't want to play. Well, it was a fluke when they beat Alabama. Bull crap. They balled up their fist and punched Nick Saban right in his nutsack for 4 quarters. They beat the snot out of those kids. No one talks about that anymore. No one talks about New Mexico State, and no one talks about Utah. And there's 2 reasons for that. Well, New Mexico State was his first year, and it was in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And Utah State, New Mexico State went into Tuscaloosa and beat the Crimson Tide. And if you think I'm ever going to stop talking about it, you're wrong, because that's a huge win. But much more importantly than that wasn't Urban Meyer's Utah. People conflate that and get it right. Urban Meyer. No, man, Urban was gone. Urban was in Gainesville by then. That was Kyle. Kyle who's still there. And the whole thing, you get those West Coast teams and they're just all fast and slick. They can't handle the Southeastern Conference defense. Baby, that's exactly what they played all day. They played that junk all day. It was rush-ins, and it was the defensive tackles, and they rotated them out the entire game. They did exactly what teams do here. And people pretend the SEC invented that, but Bobby Bowden invented that, so it just transferred over. But nah, man, that Utah Sugar Bowl against Alabama, that's one of the most brutal games you will ever see as far as if you want to see a West Coast team murder a Southeastern Conference team, that's it. And if you want to believe that excuse that, well, they were upset because it wasn't the bowl game they wanted to go to, all right, I say that makes you mentally weak. Whatever game you're in, that's the one you're supposed to win, man. Don't give me those excuses. I don't want to hear that junk.
Yeah, man.
Anyhow, I got sidetracked. But I'm very excited that Utah is going to the Rose Bowl, man. Utah, Ohio State, that is going to be real good. I'm glad you told me that because I haven't looked these up yet, so this is all news. This is cool.
That's cool. I was trying to look down if I could see any more notable matchups that might be interesting. That's the ones that always come to my mind the most. You got Iowa and Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl, Penn State and Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. So it's going to be some good. Wake Forest and Texas A&M in the TaxSlayer.com Bowl. So there's going to be some good stuff.
I agree, man. I think that's real cool. On the subject, this is interesting, man. Brian Kelly to LSU.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That I'm sorry, man. I don't see why that's so shocking. I don't quite understand. Skip Bayless was having a fit about my day, Notre Dame. Your day? What? How far back you going there, bud? Because Notre Dame ain't been Notre Dame in a long time, and it don't necessarily just mean in who they recruit or how they play. I'm talking about how they pay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about how they pay. The Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference pay like USC pay like no others. So it's like, get out of here. Notre Dame, they have a faculty they have to pay for. Yes, their coach makes a hell of a lot of money, but he makes a lot of money to live in Indiana. You know, it's just one of those things where it just doesn't surprise me that much. But he's making this huge deal about Brian Kelly is from wherever he's from, and he's a Catholic. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have any of those in Louisiana. It's like, get out of here, man. It's like that is a really stupid reason to just wring your hands over how he could possibly want to go to the Southeastern Conference. The much better question to ask yourself after you killed Lincoln Riley, who that's Oklahoma, that's his team, and he just blasts Lincoln Riley, and he's terrible and he's awful and what he does, then why are you so upset he left? But Lincoln Riley, well, he don't want to deal with the Southeastern Conference. USC is going to give me $200 million to not have to deal with, to not basically not have to play Alabama. Why in the world would I not take that? That's ridiculous to think, well, you should have had some pride and come to the SEC. That's ridiculous, man. You are out of your mind if you think that's stupid. And also, ain't nobody going to pay him like USC is. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the main thing with Brian Kelly is, I don't know. I just thought I just thought it was a really stupid route to take with his faith. His denominational faith. It's like, if he's going to move to a southern state, by God, he picked the right one. Man, Baton Rouge is not far from, Baton Rouge ain't far from New Orleans, and it's Louisiana. It's named after a French king, man. They got a couple of Catholic churches down there. He's going to be fine.
They're more alike than he lets on, or the heathen knows in the first place.
Yeah, it's like, you didn't think that through, did you, bud?
It's like, well, oh no, I'm done again. Man, I don't know what Gasparilla is, but the Gasparilla Bowl is Florida and UCF. I think it's going to be oh crap, and I don't know what Camiella Bowl, but it's but the Camiella Bowl is, but it's in Montgomery. It's Ball State and Georgia State. I'm interested in that.
I'm with you. Any Georgia State makes to any bowl, I'm gonna pull for them. Georgia Southern makes to a bowl, I'm gonna pull for them. Because Georgia Southern, I legitimately love, but Georgia State, just because they're in state, I'll pull for them. I'll tell you what, though, man, Florida UCF, that's cool, man. That's cool. That's in-state stuff, and Florida never plays them, and that's cool. That could be really neat.
And they're playing in Tampa.
Oh man, if I remember my Florida geography, oh man, yeah, Tampa's north of Orlando, isn't it?
It might be like a little bit like Northwest.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like splitting the difference.
Yeah.
It's like Gainesville and here's Orlando. That'd be cool, man. Get a neutral site, like they're right in between. I might be wrong about that, but it seems like that might be right. That's cool. That's real cool, man. I hope obviously, I hope UCF murders them because I like Florida. And I do like Central Florida. I like them when Central Florida I enjoy for a couple of reasons. One, Dante Culpepper was awesome. But way back in the day, even before Dante, man, they came to Atlanta and played Tech. And they played us within an inch of our lives. And that was before Dante. That was before any of us knew who they were. And it's like, well, this is cool. So then you have Culpepper, and that was all exciting. And then all of a sudden, George O'Leary winds up as the head coach there, and man, he had those boys playing. I love George anyway. I'm very biased because just his coaching style and just I love that guy. He's one of those Frank Solich guys that wherever he's coaching, they're gonna be good.
Yeah.
Dang, at UCF, they were real good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Man. My one other thing that I did this weekend was I watched episode 3 of Hawkeye, and it might be a shock, but I liked it. I liked it. It's man, it keeps getting better, and I think the long and short of it, even going back, I guess you could say this after the first 2 episodes, is like, man, it's the Kate Bishop show,
Yeah.
and it's nice, Hawkeye's there, but man, this show is all about her, and you know,
We talked about it. That was the coolest
mhm,
thing about that book is it was called Hawkeye for the same reason Macbeth is called Macbeth.
mhm.
If you've ever actually read Macbeth and you think that Macbeth is the lead character, okay,
Yeah,
that's what I loved so much about that book is you have a book called Hawkeye that has for Pete's sake, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop in it. So
mhm.
you have two individual heroes with the same name. So it's like a team book with one name because it's both of them. And so you got to pick up the issue and read it to find out which one it is this month. I love that. I think that's cool. They've carried that over to the show. That's awesome because
Yeah.
that is the whole point is passing the torch, man. That was the deal is that when Clint died in Avengers Disassembled and Kate got the mantle, you can do it a different way this time. That's cool. That was kind of what they did with the book, man. That's the whole. I shouldn't say the whole point, but that's something you can do. That's a great idea, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's dang good. It's worth it checking out, and it's it's funny. It's got that kind of buddy cop kind of vibe going, and then uh, just it's one of the ones that's just really neat to kind of see where it's going,
That's
and
awesome.
uh, they're really not wasting any time with all the rumors about you think Kingpin's going to show up? They're like, yeah,
I
yep.
do. Yes, I do.
That's uh, now and apparently I didn't realize I'm not a Twitter person, but I just heard news through some people that are is you have Vincent D'Onofrio who's been kind of playing coy this whole time and never tweets out stuff like this, but out of nowhere he tweets something about like I kind of like these Marvel shows or these Marvel movies or whatever he said. Like okay, well that's if a tip of like yeah he's gonna be there.
Yes, I love it. That makes me very happy, man.
Yeah, man. So I think that's kind of where this first season will end off. Is we got like a little glimpse in episode 3. And it was one of those kind of Thanos with Gamora kind of scenes, but all you say is like a hand. Oh Jesus, I know who that was.
I like it. This is very very cool. I'm glad to get that character back. Now, if I can just get the Foggy Nelson cameo in She-Hulk, I'll be so happy.
Yeah, man. So I got that done. Got that watched. And uh, I I can say that I'm pretty much done with Get Back. You know, it was one of those that I made it through, but I did kind of cheat a little bit. I'm pretty sure there's big chunks of episode 2 that I passed out and
Hey,
just kind
that's
of
okay,
huh.
man.
I felt like Ringo on the drums in one of the episodes. They kind of catch me. He's like this. He's like, huh? He's like, there's a garden in the
it
sea.
just starts swinging your arms.
But man, I guess one of if watch episode 1, and if it's remotely interesting to you, then by all means stick with it. But man, uh, I pretty much got to the point where like you get to episode 2, and Billy shows up, and everybody's chummy again, like the whole first 2.5 hours of uh, episode 1. That never happened. Now we're all friends again, and so he's showing up doing his thing, and everything's good. But it's just and I, I think for a lot of people that I've heard love it. It's like I just love the guys getting together and making their art, and it's just so good to see all this art getting made, but I don't need 40 minutes of Long and Winding Road
Yeah,
and all the 1,000 different versions that it could have been. Like I just it that's the part that's exhausting to me.
sorry.
It's so good.
Pardon me. That song is why I hate that album.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I hate that song. Of all of McCartney's Yawn Rock, that's number one on my list. I hate that song. Let It Be's okay. Hey Jude's wonderful. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
What else would be on McCartney's Yawn Rock? Because there's another one that I just am not thinking of. My Love, which is awful. I hate that song. But dude, The Long Winding Road just makes me want to jump off a bridge. I can't stand it because as soon as you get to that first little string flourish, I'm like, this is the worst. And anyway, I'm sorry to get sidetracked on it, but I'm with you. 40 minutes on that song, no thank you. I couldn't. Which is sucky, but I'll admit that I'm biased because if you tell me there's 40 minutes on Across the Universe, I'd watch every second of that. Because I love Across the Universe. I think we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on here or not, man, but Fiona Apple's cover, that is the best Beatles cover I've ever heard, or of the popularly released ones, I should say, but it is awesome. The best Beatles cover I've ever heard is like the best Beatles cover in the way that I talk about Tom Petty releasing the best Bob Dylan records of the 80s, because he did.
Yeah.
Freaking Everything Means Nothing to Me by Elliott Smith. That is the best Beatles song the Beatles never recorded ever. It is so awesome. One of my favorite things about it, it's this piano and it's pretty and it's all good. But I kid you not, when you get to that little drum beat, I mean, it's Ringo Starr time. It is awesome. I love that song, but especially just the effects they put on that little break right at the end. That's a beautiful song. It's sad because it's Elliott Smith, and I don't know if he has songs that aren't sad. If he does, I ain't heard it.
That was his jam.
Yeah, buddy. Elliott wrote some. He wrote some down stuff. I love him. I love that stuff. But that's a really pretty song. So if you're watching and you haven't heard that one, check it out. But especially when it gets to the drums, tell me that you're not just tell me you're not picturing Ringo Starr waking up, because they do just come out of nowhere. So they might have shook him away. Seriously.
Man, that was kind of where I was at with like episode 3 kicks off, and I mean, people want to, give. I guess the whole the idea of the sit down. We're gonna in 17 days we're gonna write these songs. I don't believe that they went into this recording session as blind as they claimed they did. I think they had some ideas what they were going to do, but we're gonna record these songs, perform these songs, and gonna have the movie come out, and everybody's just gonna love it. But they give a lot of flack to Yoko because that's the easiest thing to do. She's there, she's just kind of hanging out the whole time, seeming to be kind of okay for the most part. But then it's episode 3 when I think it's Linda's kid shows up, and that's when I had to hit the fast forward button a few times. Like I would not have been able to be in that room. Like, okay, are we here to work or not? I got this kid running around and getting in the microphones and doing all this stuff. I'm like, how and to talk about Ringo again, showed how Ringo's just the family pet of the group, where he's good with everybody. Everybody loves Ringo, and he's there playing with the kid because he's got somebody there to entertain. And there's just some cool little stuff with him and the kid. But that part to me was like, man, when you get to episode 3, man, just hit fast forward till you get to the rooftop, because that's what you sit through this whole 7.5 hours to get to in the first place.
That's all anybody is waiting on, man.
Yeah. And what, and that's one of the things too that I didn't realize, when you're able to see the footage of the rooftop start to finish, I didn't realize just how that was done. And the image I had in my head of how the rooftop would have looked from the street was not at all what it was. I didn't realize that Apple Studios is kind of in, it's hard to call it like an alley, but there's no big open spot for everybody to kind of gather. And you had like this mental picture of like other people on the other roofs just kind of looking over. There weren't nearly as many as I pictured in my head.
Yeah, it's not like Wrigley where people just sit on the roofs of they used to sit on the roofs of the apartments across the street.
Yeah, yeah. It's not only is the building itself kind of down in an awkward spot where you know people are kind of pulling at the end of the way, but it's still kind of like is that what I think it is going on down there?
And the only people looking across the road like, "Oh, shut the fuck up!"
Shut that shit up.
Exactly.
And the rooftop itself, I mean, uh, you just kind of had, well, surely they're just like on a nice solid ground. Like, no, they're like jumping on these boards. It's like, man, they're gonna fall through that crap, and they gotta climb through parts of it to get out there. And it's just, not at all the image I had in my head of how that all went down.
Not as suave as I was hoping.
Yeah, man. I guess shouldn't have put on my red leather jacket before I climbed through this barricade.
It's a double idea.
Yes. So I just sit around watching 8 hours of those guys working on my Harrison impression. That's god awful. It's like that though.
It's not your fault, man. Nobody can do George Harrison except Justin Long. That's why it was so funny that it was so funny, because it's like, I don't know. It's the same thing with our girl Melissa Villasenor, man. When you go and watch that first thing that she did on like America's Got Talent or whatever it was, and she's doing her like impression, and it's Barbara Walters, who everyone does, and it's hers is good, but everyone does Barbara Walters. But she decides first thing that she does is Barbara Walters interviewing Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is the least caricature-like human being on earth. There is nothing that makes her distinctive except the four things that somehow Melissa Villasenor noticed. Because I couldn't believe it. Say you're going to do an impression of Natalie Portman. I'm like, God, what is there to do? And then she does it, and I'm like, holy crap, there was a lot there to do. I had no idea. Yeah. So I just think it's funny that you go from standard and one that everybody does to, holy crap, I've never seen anyone even try this before. And unfortunately, John is the one everybody can do, and Ringo's pretty close. Paul's not easy, but nobody can do George, and the Justin Long is in Dewey Cox. It's like, how did he do that? Holy crap, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so often when it comes to like impersonations like that, it's like, are you doing them or are you just doing like a character they play?
Yeah.
I guess that's what with Natalie Portman, even like some of the characters she done, I'm like, how are you gonna pull that off? And other than reciting some Star Wars crap,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how else you would do it.
Unless you're doing the lines, which is, to be blunt, is exactly what Chappelle did for Samuel L. Jackson, is just scream and yes, they deserve to die. But I'm glad that he's got juice. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite lines on that show ever. That was a good one.
Man, that's pretty much, man. I think after getting through and watching all of the Beatles stuff, it's like what we were talking about. It's like, man, it just makes you want to go watch the anthology again because it feels like that was more of a story. Yeah. And this just gets way too specific of this couple of days, and you're like, I just don't really see, that this was worth 8 hours.
Yeah, the Beatles specific stuff that I could get into is if you have documentary footage of them on the set of Hard Day's Night, I can do that however many hours of it you got. And it's kind of like we talked about, man. Let It Be was miserable. They were miserable. It's not, I understand that it exists. And so it's like, hey, man, I just got to have it. I get it. If you're a Beatles, aficionado and you just got to see it, I understand that. But man, there's so many other times it'd be a lot more fun to hang out with those dudes.
Yeah,
But I
man.
guess that's my thing is that I can waste 8 hours on Long and Winding Road, or I can go watch Hard Day's Night, which still holds up. Everybody knows it holds up. It's amazing. And I'm glad, interestingly enough, that if the music biopic won't work in this regard, but it's fun to go back and like read, excuse me, reviews of Spice World when it came out
Mhm.
because everybody shit on it. Then people actually watched it and they were like, "There's a lot more going on here than I thought." That movie's fun, man. They knew what they were doing. They
Yeah.
were totally doing a send up of Hard Days. That's not as good as that, but it's fun. the main the main thing about Spice World that I thought they got right was the same thing that Hard Day's Night got right, where you just write them to be who they actually were. So they're not in character on screen. That's just who they are. That was so cool. Hard Day's Night is awesome. I need to watch that again. It's been a while. That's one of the criterions I've been on the fence about. And I'm like, man, why have you not bought that yet? What is wrong with you? I got to get that one, man. I got to
Oh
do it.
yeah, man. That one's definitely awesome. And I always like Help.
I think
I don't. I'm not.
Help.
I don't think. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying, but I like it just as much.
I think Help is underrated. My main thing about Help, man, is and Hard Day's Night soundtrack is freaking awesome too. But man, some of
Oh
the
yeah,
songs in Help, man, particularly Ticket to Ride, is one of my favorite Beatles songs ever.
yeah, man.
That scene in particular of them like going down the slope and all that, it's like this is awesome. And you know, Ringo's the star of Help. How could I not like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I just that one little scene, and it's there's a lot of funny stuff in it, but just him putting the letter into the mailbox, and the guys in there trying to grab the ring from him, and he's just like fighting, going. And I think it's Paul that walks in like, "What are you doing?" "I just posted a letter." Goes right back to fighting this guy.
I think the Ringo putting the letter into the box is I think a lot of Pennywise came from that. I think
Yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
King watched that and was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Inspiration.
That's right. I got something for you, Georgie. No, that's Ringo. No, I'm onto something else.
But man, but yeah, that's not what you're talking about. It's just the songs and Help or uh, what it helps move it along. But I always like that song. I think it's "You're Gonna Lose That Girl."
Oh yeah.
I think it's the one that I always like. Yeah, man, that's my jam from that one.
Yeah, man. You can lose that girl is real good. Help is, and of course I'm biased, but Help is like, sorry, as far as songwriting duties, Help is like John Lennon's Sergeant Pepper. Because Sergeant Pepper's a lot of McCartney, and as much crap as I give Paul McCartney, I do love Sergeant Pepper, and a lot of that album is him. Now I will say, the finest hour on Sergeant Pepper is technically both of them, but it's John's song. It's John's chord progression, and if you don't have, I heard the news today, oh boy, woke up rolled out of bed don't mean shit.
Mhm.
Nobody cares about the McCartney part if you don't have
Yeah.
the Lennon part in particular. That once Paul gets through and sings his song and does all this stuff and da 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 da, and then John comes right back with the ahs. It's like that's it. That's
Mhm.
the oh god, Day in the Life is the baddest thing. That's a song. The Beatles do not have a single best song. I would never pretend they did. But
Mhm.
man, if aliens asked me what the Beatles were about, that I don't know if that's the one I would pick or not. It's tricky. If you ask what the Beatles are about, that's a hard question to answer.
Yes, it depends on what day you catch me on.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. For
Yeah,
real.
man.
That's tricky. That's tricky, man.
That's a rough one there.
I done fooled myself. I done
Yeah, man.
sang out myself.
Man, that's I don't know much else what's going on in the world.
I've been completely boring lately, man. I was telling you before we started, and I'll mention it now. About the only thing I've really been up to as far as like sinking my teeth in, there's two things. Excuse me. um, Google Play Music was an awesome discovery because it's Spotify. It's the same thing as any music service you pay for, man, where you've got access to pretty much everything. And there were, right around the time, probably, excuse me, I want to say late 90s, right around the time we were graduating high school, Columbia Records put out those insane, like metallic, it almost looks like an accordion, like box sets of different Miles Davis stuff. And one of them was the 65 to 68 second great quintet. And man, that thing's like 250. I love it, but I can't pay that much for it. But it's right there. You can listen to all of it. So man, I've been like going bananas on the second. I shouldn't say second. The Columbia Quintet, Miles's Columbia Quintet. I just keep playing the crap out of them. And there was not too long ago they released. I think they were both live records. I think it was a couple. Oh no, I'm sorry. They were both live Miles Davis records, but one of them was like early 70s stuff, which that's the rock and roll Miles stuff that I'm obsessed with. But the other one was like live recordings from the Columbia Quintet, but there's a DVD in there too. Man, the only thing cooler than listening to those guys is watching them play. Because Tony Williams is the baddest sucker on earth, and I think he was about 19 when they recorded that stuff. That's amazing that you can be. And I don't even necessarily think that it was technical proficiency, because of course that's always going to be there with a 19-year-old jazz drumming prodigy. Technique's going to be there. But I think that Miles's obsession with him was just like the flourish, just like what he added to the great. It's hard to explain, man, but when you listen to him, especially some of that live stuff, man, Tony Williams is out there beating that snare like it owes him money. It's amazing. It's amazing. That group was absolutely crazy. But my favorite stuff, besides Miles, of course, is man, Herbie. Dude, anytime you get to that piano solo and it's Herbie Hancock, man, it's like you never know where it's going, because as far as like mood that led into the piano solo, man, Herbie will spin that thing, flip it, turn it around, blow it up, rebuild it, and you're right back where you started. They're incredible. Those five guys. And jazz is exciting in that regard anyway. But those dudes, man, people talk endlessly about that group for a reason, because they really are that spectacular. It's the one thing that I've read. It's not even a criticism. It's just a comment about some of the live footage on that DVD, is that it's real early. And the points they're making are that when Wayne Shorter takes his solos, he's a little reticent. Now, I think he sounds great, but these are people that really know this group. And it's like, man, I think what they're trying to say is they're not dissing him at all. It's kind of a situation where it's like, basically they're looking at this video and being like, man, if you like this, please keep listening, because wait till you see for this guy's in a year. It's exciting. Those guys are so good. But it's seriously, it's a very comprehensive name. It's like Complete Columbia Recordings 65, 68. It's every note they ever recorded, and I can't stop listening to that. That's one thing. What was my other thing I've been playing a bunch lately, man? I've made like weird little choppy playlist here and there. But man, it seems like there was, I don't remember what it was, I'm sorry to say, but what I mentioned earlier was my television viewing. And I'm excited about this because it's that number one hurdle that I love for things to clear. And it's like, whenever I'm not here and I'm thinking about coming home and watching it, I get excited. And it's Bojack Horseman, man. And I tried to watch it 3 different times and I never could get into it. But this time it took root, and now I'm about 13 episodes in, and that's what I'm going to do when I get off here, is watch another one. I love it. I'm excited to be into that, because, we've talked about that before, man, that there are times when we'll watch stuff, and sometimes, man, you just get the vibe and this ain't for me, and you can walk away and find something new. There are other things that, man, I will just gnaw on forever. Like, I keep saying it, but it's true. Freaking OK Computer. I have never enjoyed that album, but one of these days, one of these days, I'm going to put it on, and I know it's going to hit me, because it's not that I don't hear the quality. It doesn't do it for me. But I know that people love it, which is really neat, but also it's undeniably excellent. And I'm like, one of these days I'm going to catch up with this, and I'm really going to like this album. So I'm going to keep listening to it once a year until that happens.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, those times when I don't. If you're asking me my favorite, whatever, it's one of those that doesn't always come to my mind, but it's really good, nonetheless. That it's like, man, that's just one I can put that in the file. It wasn't for me, but it's out there, and I understand why people are down with it.
Yeah, I like stuff like that too. There are certain things that I just there are certain ones that I've written off that I know are never going to do exactly what you just said. I know it'll never do it for me, but it's not a slag, man. It's like, no, I get it. I totally get it. So that's a good way to say it, man.
Oh, man, as far as Bojack goes, I mean, I don't know a thing about it. I just know that was an Adult Swim one, I think.
Bojack is straight up Netflix, man.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. I mean, I've always liked Will Arnett's voice and a lot of the voice acting he does. I'm like, well, that might help me, help me get through it.
Well, that's what happened. Is Arnett drives me up the wall, but I love Lego Masters and I love Arrested Development. It's like, okay, but like I was telling you, man, when I finally, it's weird. I thought I had given this thing a fair shake, but obviously I hadn't because what hooked me on the first, it's just so stupid, but this time through, for some reason, what hooked me on the first episode was the theme song. The theme song was awesome. It's like, God, I love this. How did I not notice how good this was the first time through? And clearly I was just distracted out of my mind because I get looking at the credits and it's like Allison Brie and Aaron Paul, and it's like, okay, this is cool. But the second name list, like I was telling you, second billing in the show is Amy Sedaris. And I'm like, now clearly I didn't see this before because anything that she's attached to, I'll give it a shot because we've talked about it before, man.
Yeah. It's double TV.
It's Jerry Blank, man. I mean,
yeah.
God, give Jerry a shot, man. But as soon as I saw her name, I'm like, okay, you did not. You've been saying for a long time, oh, I've tried multiple times to watch that show, but clearly you haven't because this will get you through it. And it did. I like the first one, and then it just kept going up from there. And whenever I finish, I'll let you know how it goes. But it's cool. I'm really digging it quite a lot, man. I think I mentioned to you earlier. The main thing that got me, the reason I couldn't just walk away from it is, tons of people will just like do screen caps for Instagram, and you get it and you read the captions, and it's like, man, this really sounds like something I would enjoy watching. Why don't I dig this? Why am I not watching this? So once again, it gets its day in court. But by golly, this time it's like, okay, let's keep rolling, man. But I think that's it. I don't think I've watched anything else. I really need to take notes on stuff, but just because I'm too stupid to remember.
Oh man, that's all good.
Stupid.
Heck yeah, man. That's what's going on.
On that subject, my brother and I were discussing earlier today, like how many hilarious lines there are in Sandler movies that are off screen.
Oh God.
we just kept rattling them off, man. And I will tell you that, of course, in solidarity and as a tribute to the man, my first contribution was, I'm so glad I got the movie classic. We say that to each other all the time, man.
Yeah, man.
It was what were the ones we were talking about? It was that and watch out, Johnny.
Yeah.
Watch out, Johnny. Maybe watch out, Johnny. Sweet Jesus. Man, that's Mr. Deeds. Those are all the same movie. Sweet
right
Jesus.
down the road.
Sweet Jesus is hilarious, man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sweet Jesus. The only thing funnier than the line is like we've talked about before. It's who you cast to say it, because that dude's voice just sounds—it's just fantastic. That's my favorite.
Pete. Yeah, that's good stuff.
That is how we do it, man. I should have taken notes, man. I say it every week, and one of these weeks I'll be Kornheiser. I'll have my little clipboard and I'll be ready to go.
Man, that's all good, man.
That is how we do it. Y'all, thank you for watching.
Heck yeah, man. I'll see y'all.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.